Well, hello, DC fans, Batman fans alike. Welcome back to my channel. I am Dial, and this is another edition of my live stream. And this month, we're continuing on with Bat Month, where we'll be talking about every theatrical release of a Batman movie leading up to The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves and starring Robert Pattinson, which is going to be coming out in March. So we're going to talk about all the Batman movies before that. If you guys haven't seen, I already did a review for the 1966 Adam West Batman movie. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out on my channel. It's literally the last stream that I did. Um, but yeah, it's all good stuff. But we'll be continuing on today, moving on to the next film. Uh, this one I've been waiting to get to. Can't wait to talk about this one. We'll be talking about Tim Burton's Batman. It came out in 1989, starring Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton. Very excited to get into this. As always, I did put an invite out there for anyone that wants to join me in this conversation. I put the link out there for anyone who wants to come in. We may have some guests, we may not. We'll see how it goes. But if we don't, it's fine. We're still going to have some great conversations talking about this pretty cool movie. Let's check out the chat real quick. We got Antonio says, "What's up? How's it going, Antonio? Glad you could tune in for a little bit." Then we have Ambassador Jack. Jack is dead, my friend. You can call me Joker. And as you can see, I'm a lot happier. What's up, Ambassador? I'm glad you can tune in. If you are free, you can also come in. I can send you a link if you want. But if not, it's fine. I'm glad you could tune in, listen in. But yeah, let's get into this movie. So, this came out in 1989, so way before I was born. So I didn't like grow up when all the hype was coming in for this film. Um, Around the time I grew up watching Batman the animated series. I think that's the first Batman anything that I watched, and like of course, we all know. Oh, oh, Ambassador said send him a link. Okay, okay. So excuse me, guys. I mean, I'm still gonna be on here. I'm going to try and send him a link real quick. So I'm gonna keep talking while I do that. But at the time, um, yeah, I was just watching Batman the animated series, and I love that show. I used to watch it all the time. I had DVDs and stuff like that, so that was mainly the Batman that I was watching. Um, I didn't find out about this movie till I was like, okay, here's the funny thing. So I didn't find out about this movie till I was about 7 years old, I think. And um, and how I found out was that my dad had the soundtrack to the Batman movie. You know, the Prince, the Prince soundtrack. That's how I first found out about the movie. I know it's crazy. It's weird that I found out about this movie from the soundtrack that Prince did, but he had the CD, and he let me listen to it. Um, yeah, I personally really like the soundtrack. I'm gonna get more into the tracks later on, but yeah, that's how I first found out about the movie is from the soundtrack. Um, Man, I don't even know where it is now. Um, I, I think I lost it with between like moving to different places. Like I don't even know. I probably got to ask my dad if he still has the CD. But yeah, that's how I found out about it. Um, so I would listen to the CD on repeat. I really liked that soundtrack, and but for some reason, uh, my dad never showed me the movie, like like at all. For some reason, he would let me listen to the soundtrack, but he never showed me the movie. And ever since I listened to the soundtrack, I was really eager to see this movie because first of all, I was already hooked on Batman because of the animated series, and he knew how much I watched it. So you would think like he would have me sit down and watch it, and he didn't even own the movie. I don't. I don't know what happened. What's that? Like he never got it and bought it so I could watch it. Maybe he was trying to be a responsible adult and be like, I think you're not at the right age to watch this. It's a little, it's it's not like the cartoon. It's more adult themed. There's some dark stuff in there. So he was probably being the responsible adult, being like, I'm gonna have you watch it when you get a little bit older, just a little bit older. Whatever. I haven't really talked about my dad. I haven't really talked to my dad about the movie, so I should probably ask him about that. But anyway, how I ended up watching the movie is here's another random thing. Once again, I was at the store with my grandma of all people, and I saw, you guys know the iconic logo that's on all the marketing for the movie. That bat symbol that was on the CD as well. There was no words, there was nothing. It was just this shiny bat symbol right here. And dude, just from that, I was instantly like curious, like, wow, that looks so sleek, that looks so cool. I want to know what this is. And then there was also a little pamphlet in the CD where they had like shots of stuff in the movie, and it's Michael Keaton as Batman and Jack Nicholson as the Joker, and I'm like, whoa, this looks like a really cool movie. I want to know what this is. But anyway, I was at the store with my grandma, and I saw the DVD of Batman '89. And once again, that DVD just had that symbol on it. Yeah, that's all it said. And I was like, oh my God, this is my chance. Grandma, you gotta get this DVD for me. Now, she didn't know anything about it. I mean, she knows about Batman. I'm sure she grew up with it, but she grew up with the hype around it. But she wasn't really that deep into Batman and the comic stuff. I don't even know if she went to the theater and saw it. I'd ask her about that as well. But like, so she was very nonchalant about it. But I was like begging her to buy this DVD for me, and she ended up doing it because like it's Batman, so it was fine. She ended up buying it for me. So immediately when I got home, I put this DVD on. I think I got the DVD when I turned like 9 or 10. So yeah, waited that long to finally sit down and watch this movie. It's freaking nuts. But anyway, sitting down and watching this movie for the first time, man, I loved it, man. It was I was so hooked on this movie. I really enjoyed it. And it's another film that I watched on repeat, along with The Phantom Menace and other things when I was a kid. Loved it, man. I felt like it was just as good as the animated series. And this was the first live action Batman movie I ever saw. So I really had bat fever after watching the movie. And keep in mind, around the time, I didn't really know. I haven't really seen that much from Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. I think the only other thing I saw him in was Beetlejuice. Then Jack Nicholson, I don't think I saw anything from him before I watched this. So I think this is the first time I saw Jack Nicholson in a movie, and man, what a great introduction to that. But man, I just really enjoyed it as a kid. Still really enjoy it now. Um, However, as always, when you grow up and you start to process things, you know, and rewatching this recently, you start to notice some things that weren't as great. I know for a lot of people, it's probably one of their favorite Batman movies. Um, People think it's like this is a perfect movie. It's like one of the best Batman films. Um, I will say, rewatching this, I do still enjoy it. I do think it's still a very enjoyable film, but I don't think it's perfect. I did notice there's some problems here and there with the story, and there's some convenient things that happen where I'm like, okay, wait a minute, now how did that happen? But but other than that, I still enjoy the movie, but I don't think it's perfect. That like I said, there are some issues that I have with it, which we will get into. But still, overall, I do enjoy this movie quite a bit. It's just so cool, man. It reminded me a lot of when I watched the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, because that was one of my first introductions to Spider-Man. Like, you just feel like it was just so fun to watch, and I definitely felt the nostalgia still a little bit watching this movie. It's just, this set the tone for what Batman becomes, today. A lot. I think this set, changed the shift from what a lot of people are used to seeing Batman as, which, coming from Saturday morning cartoons like the Super Friends and of course the Adam West stuff. This turned it into a completely new direction. Made it more dark, more sophisticated, a little more adult, but not too adult, It still had its fun, whimsical moments, but like they were taking the character more seriously at this point, and I really appreciated that. Like this did set the standard for what Batman ends up being today. Um, so yeah, let us get into this movie overall. So let's first of all we gotta talk about Tim Burton. Tim Burton, I'll say I'm not the biggest fan of Tim Burton. Um, I haven't. There's probably been more movies that I didn't like from him than I liked. Um, but the movies that I do like, I do enjoy quite a bit. One thing I can say about Tim Burton is that he has his own unique style, and I appreciate, his for the most part, I do appreciate his direction and his some of his takes on his characters because it's like I don't see anyone really doing the stuff that he does. I mean, of course, like nowadays you see other directors like Guillermo del Toro and stuff like that go into the more whimsical type of stuff and like the more emo. I guess people consider emo Oh, sorry, I kind of the connection got a little weird. But anyway, we got a guest coming in. We have Ambassador. What is going on, man?
Hey, DL, good to see you, bud.
Good to see
Appreciate you.
you too.
It's been a bit. Um,
I know.
so I think the last time I was on here was wow, The Matrix. I think was the last time we you and I talked. So,
Yep.
but yeah, I didn't get a chance to check out your Batman 66, but I will say this: that is honestly a guilty pleasure of mine. I know it is campy. I know it's Adam West, but I love it. But this for me is one of the absolute most is the one of the quintessential Batman films. This is by far one of the best. So, but you were talking
Mhm.
about Tim Burton, so go ahead, bud.
Cool. But yeah, as I said, Tim Burton, I feel like is kind of a hit and miss director, but when he does
Mm-hmm.
have his hits, I do enjoy them quite a bit because I do like his directing style when he has a coherent story behind it. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like his vision on films is very unique to a lot of directors. Like I don't see a lot of directors doing what he does as far as his takes on characters or the designs that he has for characters overall. He has like that whimsical, like dark tone, I guess. Like I do like that from Tim Burton, but like I said, when he's has a good story behind it, it could be really good. Like for example, Beetlejuice. I really enjoyed what he did with Beetlejuice. I think that's what the
Oh,
Tim Burton movie I saw before this movie, though. But yeah.
the Beetlejuice. That's by far one of my all time favorites of his. I mean,
Hmm.
I will say the late '80s was, I think, one of Burton's prime times as a director. He did some really good films in those years. I mean, obviously Batman '89. You got Beetlejuice. You got Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah.
Those were some of his best known films from the '80s. So, but yeah,
Mhm.
totally,
Ab-
totally.
Absolutely. Um, and I gotta say, like watching this recently, I'm just surprised of how much he got Batman, because like come to think of it, like I wouldn't think that Tim Burton like would be such a perfect fit for Batman, but like not only
Hmm.
was he a perfect fit, but as I said before, he set the tone of what Batman becomes, in live action. It's like this
Mhm.
was this was the shift of making Batman more of a dark and more sophisticated character. Even though, yeah, we do appreciate the Adam West and over the topness from before with the Super Friends, like
Mhm.
Tim Burton's Batman, like it was something it was something different, and a lot of people were gravitated to that. And I felt with this movie specifically, he found a good balance between the whimsical stuff and the grounded stuff. I feel like there was a really good balance. I didn't feel like it was too much of Tim Burton doing his weird stuff in this movie. Like I felt like his style fit perfectly, and it felt very similar to the animated series. I think this was the inspiration for how the animated series
Yes.
ended up style wise. So I definitely see the parallels there.
Well, yeah, and honestly, they used the Danny Elfman score from this movie for the animated series. And
Absolutely.
Danny Elfman did a lot of the scoring for the animated series once it went into production, if I remember correctly. And you hit upon a very important thing, DL. Burton, up until this point, hadn't done superhero movies. But here's the other thing too. Back in the 70s, even in the 80s, superhero films were allowed to be more experimental. And you could bring in these really unique directors and writers and even actors to be in these movies. And you do see that, not to get off on a big tangent here, but you do see that in the MCU where they bring in these directors who wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't connect with superhero movies or comic book movies, but they bring a particular style and a particular panache to a particular vision to the material that they're working on. And Warner Brothers wanted Batman to be taken from his more campier roots, as you mentioned, into something more operatic, more gothic, more serious, most definitely. And there is some tongue in cheek humor in this film. Make no mistake about it. When you've got a pair of semi comedic actors like Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton, who do have good, not great, but good comedic timing, it gives you the opportunity to play there. But most definitely with Batman '89, this was a massive course correct that has really been the norm for theatrical Batman ever since 1989, except for maybe Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, although I still say release the Schumacher cut. Um, I want to see that movie. I do. I want to see that
I
movie.
mean,
I want to see that
I'm
darker
curious
version.
about it. I am
I am
curious
too.
about it.
I have been for a very long time. But this. Nope, you've got a bot.
Huh? Oh, okay, whatever.
Lovely, lovely bot.
Great.
Anyway, um, let me. I know I'm not a mod, but I can report it and get them out of here.
Appreciate it.
The other thing I will comment upon with Batman '89 is Burton understood the source material. Most definitely, I would say that he did his research
Hmm.
and he did the work to understand this character and make it rooted and make it rooted in reality. And I think that was obviously any good director, excuse me, is going to do that. So I think Warner Brothers made a good choice with Burton. Um, Obviously you'll be covering Batman Returns. I don't know when, but I imagine you'll be doing it soon. But you do
Probably
see
next
that
couple
Carrie.
days.
Okay,
Probably next couple
but
days.
you'll definitely okay, but you'll definitely see that carry on. But in terms of Batman '89, it is a benchmark for what a not only what a good Batman movie should be, but also for what a good superhero or comic book movie could be.
Exactly. And I did want to touch on what you brought up earlier about
Mhm.
comparing it to the comic book movies we have now, because I feel
Mhm.
like with most of them today, even though I do enjoy most of the comic book movies we have today, but it's like it feels like comic book movies today are trying to be more grounded, or they try to make it feel like more tangible for today's sensibilities. So it's like they
Mhm.
they feel the need to cut back on some of the comic booky type of aesthetics, and like
Yes.
the whimsical over the topness, which which I do appreciate with some comic book movies. But it's like watching this, like I just like appreciate for its time. We weren't worried about shared universes. We weren't worried about it crossing over with other superheroes. We weren't worried about continuity with other movies. Like Tim Burton, as I said, he was able to make his own world in Batman and not worry
Yes.
about other things. And then also, he wasn't worried too much about being grounded or making stuff look too like real or whatever, or making the characters realistic. Because, like, for me personally, some of the best Batman stories, they need some of that whimsical over the top stuff. Like I don't
Mhm.
think everything should be grounded with Batman. There has to be there's some supernatural elements with Batman. Not a lot, just the right amount, just to, I just feel like that's how I like my Batman personally. And like with Tim Burton's Batman, I really like how unique it feels, as far as just like how the city looks and just the costumes, the makeup and stuff like that. It's very comic booky. It's like we don't get a lot of that nowadays of how much it feels like a comic book put on screen.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. With Batman 89, what Burton was trying to do was obviously he was trying to answer or try to give Warner Brothers what they wanted in terms of making Batman more of a heavy weighted character rather than the campy version they had in years before. And he succeeded in that. But this also, you have to look at this film from the aspect of the 80s and being a child of the 80s. Granted, I never got to see this in theaters when it came out in '89, but
Oh,
I did get to see it numerous times on TV, and I did obviously get to rent it on home video when Blockbuster was still a thing and so on. And you see the 80s aesthetic in this film with the griminess and grunginess of Gotham, with Kim Basinger's wardrobe, with Jack Nicholson's um also his wardrobe and the design of the Joker as well. And but also his costuming and his demeanor in as Joker, Jack Napier, is it is a callback to Cesar Romero's portrayal of the Joker from the Wham West show, but also it makes him more sinister. It makes him more dangerous. He is a mobster, but he is also the most iconic of Batman's villains.
mm-hmm.
And the thing you have to remember with Jack Nicholson's Joker is its own performance. You cannot compare it to, say, Jared Leto's Joker, or even the late the late great Heath Ledger's Joker. His take is his take on the character and what um, Burton wanted him to bring to the character. And
Well, since
I
we're already on it, I
yeah,
guess we
yeah.
we can talk about Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. I
Yes.
love him as the Joker. He is fantastic. This is the first
Yes.
Jack Nicholson. This is the first thing I see Jack Nicholson in. This is my introduction to
Hmm.
Jack Nicholson, and oh my gosh, he pulled it off. To me, I know this is probably a hot take for a lot of people. To this day, he's my favorite Joker. He's my favorite live action Joker, I'll say. My favorite Joker of all time is Mark Hamill, of course. But
Yes. Hmm.
I feel like Jack Nicholson's Joker encapsulates almost everything that I know from Joker from the comics and even from the anime series. He's like I just feel like he feels like the comic book Joker come to life. For me personally, even though I love
Yes.
Heath Ledger's and I do appreciate the different take they were doing with Joaquin Phoenix, and even I'm one of the few people on this earth that defend Jared Leto's Joker. But what I
Hmm.
do like about this Joker is that he this Joker is able to have fun. You know, as I
Yes.
said before, like I like the Joker when he's able to be silly, he's able to be funny. Like he has those wacky gadgets that he has, but at the same time, he made it clear that he's one scary motherfucker. You do not want to
Yes.
mess with him when he gets
No.
serious. Like you're scared of him, but at the same time you're laughing at him. And I feel like
Yes.
he had the perfect combination of those two. And then as far as his look, like this is probably the best look of the Joker I've seen in live action. Like this is literally it. This is literally from the comics. His his superimposed smile. I like his superimposed smile, even
As
though
do I.
like yeah, even though like his overall origin when he falls into the acid and then he gets surgery and he creates and stuff like that. That is one of the most over the top origins I've seen in the comic book movie, but it works so well. Like his smile, his the pale face, the green hair, the purple suit and all that. It's just it looks so cool. And what I also liked about this Joker is I like that they kept like the mob gangster stuff with him.
Yes.
I think that
Hmm.
fits really well with him. Now, the one of the controversies with this version of Joker is that they pretty much gave him like a backstory. Like he has a
Hmm.
regular name, like we know who he is. He's part of a mob and stuff like that. And they directly connect his origin to Batman's,
Batman.
where
Hmm.
he's the one that killed his parents in the alleyway. I know a lot of people were really mixed on that. Can I also say one other thing? How is it that when he's younger, he looks even more like the Joker than he does now? And he doesn't even have the makeup and stuff like that. Look at that smile. Just look
Yeah.
at it.
Well, the thing is they got a good younger actor to be a younger stand-in for Jack Nicholson. I mean, they obviously did some hair work on him to give him a similar hairline and everything compared to what we'll see later on with Jack as an older man and everything. He at that point he was just a street level punk and everything, working for uh Carl Grissom, played by again a late great of Hollywood, Jack Palance,
Mhm.
and you've got to give props to Jack Palance for his role. I mean, granted, he doesn't have very many scenes in this film, but every scene that he's in, he owns. And him playing against or playing with Jack Nicholson, they were perfect. I mean, Palance had always had the penchant to be over the top, but also be very serious, be a heavy, and just be an outstanding. He was always an outstanding character actor. I mean, one of my all-time favorite roles for him, aside from this, was of course in City Slickers, when he plays Curly, the ranch hand, and of course you've got Jerry Hall who plays the girl plays oh, for heaven's sakes, I can't remember the character's name, but she's Grissom's girl essentially, and Jack's got eyes on her too. He wants
Mhm.
Jerry, or he wants Grissom's girl,
Mhm.
and of course her connection is of course to Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones and all that. And she was also a very well known model back in the day, and
Hold on.
she's
Pause.
I mean
Pause.
obviously she
Pause
still's
right
got the
there.
look and
Hold on, Ambassador. Pause
sure.
right there because we got another guest coming in. We have William,
Oh,
first time coming on the channel. What is up, man?
What's going on? I just came to interrupt you when you were talking. That's all. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I wasn't even the one talking, so joke's on you.
What's going on, dude? I just thought I'd come in and say hi.
Oh, well, appreciate you coming by, man.
What's the topic? What are the topics? I guess hi,
Well,
Ambassador.
I don't know. We're talking about
hey
some
William.
Batman '89.
I
It's
saw that movie June of 1989. I was at the end of my freshman year in high school. I saw that movie. I left right from there, right from school, high school. I had purchased my tickets that Wednesday, and I went and saw it in the daytime. One of the few movies that I matinees I've ever been to, because I usually don't go to the movies in the daytime. It's always exclusively at nighttime. So back then, man, it was different. There was no other comic book movies besides the Superman movies that had come, and that was like 5 years before the very last one, which was at the time considered to be one of the worst comic book movies made. Now was Superman 4. So you didn't have anything, and the only Batman anybody knew was Adam West. because the general public wasn't reading the comics. I was reading Dark Knight, and Killing Joke came out a year before. So that's the Batman that I was looking for. This was 89 Batman was the closest to at that time that we could get. So I enjoyed it. Don't want to see him again. I mean, I don't. The 14-year-old me was really cool. The 2022 version of me, it's not the same. I just don't know if I want to see Michael Keaton as a focal point. Now, if he's just as a cameo coming in, cool. As a focal point, not really.
Yeah, we'll talk about the old Michael Keaton stuff when we get there with the Flash. But what I also wanted to touch on is with Jack Nicholson's Joker is that dude, the different costumes and makeup stuff they have for him in this movie, like it's freaking nuts. First of all, you have makeup on top of makeup. He has makeup to disguise himself like he looks like a regular person, but the imposed smile is still there. But then somehow they were able, when he gets doused with water or whatever, he has makeup on top of the makeup. I'm like, what in the that was freaking nuts. I love that. And what I also loved, I like the mime stuff, which he has his mime outfit, and then he goes to like what was it, City Hall, and he goes to kill one of the gangsters because they refuse to work with him, whatever. And bro, one of my favorite scenes, bro. He just freaking launched a pen at someone's neck and killed him. What the heck?
That's kind of reminiscent of when Joker puts a pencil through the head.
Yeah, like before the pencil trick, it was the feather pen, and just literally just
the quill
right in the neck. And then also we got to talk about. I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
Well, go ahead, DL. It's okay. Go ahead, bud.
Okay. Well, I was also gonna add the other awesome scene with freaking Joy Buzzer.
That was cool because that's something he did in that era. There's actually a famous cover where it's him laughing and he's got the buzzer and it's a burnt out, charred out body. And that was perfect because that reminded me of that scene when they did that in the movie.
Yeah, this is the type of wacky stuff that I love for the Joker with all of his gadgets and stuff like that. Like, this is stuff that I remember reading from the comics, as you said, William, where he has all these wacky, over-the-top kills with this stuff. I just love it.
The talking fish was my favorite. When you would walk around and talk to the fish, and the fish had the Joker smile on it.
Yeah.
Go back to those days, man. It was some silly stuff.
And that was what made this particular Joker so great. And Daniel Martin, good to see you, bud. Appreciate you popping in.
Yeah,
obviously, well, DL, sorry, this is your channel, not mine. I'm so used to saying that.
It's okay, you're good.
That's what made this Joker so great. He made you laugh, but he also made you wet your pants like, oh crap, is this guy going to kill me? Or is he going to pull a gag on me and then kill me?
Yeah, you wouldn't drink anything or touch anything when he was around because he'd probably have
exactly.
Or breathe the air. Breathe the air. Back in that era of Joker would poison the air to where everybody would end up with a dead smile on their face.
Yeah, the Smilex gas. Well, that's you brought it up earlier, DL, with the tying Bruce Wayne and Jack Napier's origins together, where it's Jack Napier, not Joe Chill, who kills, or just some random street thug who kills Thomas and Martha Wayne.
That part I didn't like.
Yeah, a lot of people were upset on it. Yeah,
honestly, I didn't have a problem with it because at the time, there, as you mentioned, there was no shared universe, there was no continuity issues, nothing like that. But it gave an added dimension to this movie and to this story where there's a higher stake. And I think in this particular instance, the choice to link the antagonist and the protagonist together was a good move. Honestly, I think it was a very sound move because it obviously you've got Jack, aka Joker, pulling all his shenanigans in Gotham, but at the same time, when Bruce realizes, oh my gosh, this is the guy that killed my parents, this is the guy who made me what I am, and you have them, you have that classic exchange in the belfry in the bell tower of the church, and he's like, "You made me, but I made you, but you made me first. You killed my parents." And Jack's like, "Well, you dumped me in that vat of chemicals. How does that make you feel?" I'm of course
Mm,
paraphrasing here,
right.
but
I
the, go ahead, Dale.
I was gonna say to talk more about that. Like at first, I didn't know how to feel about it. Because like for a lot of people and for me for the longest time, I felt like the best thing about the Joker is that we didn't know a lot about him as a
Hmm.
person. Like I liked that they kept his origin like mystery. But I
Yes.
will say for this exception, the way they connected Batman and Joker in this film, I think it worked really well. As I said, it's like the the dynamic between Batman and Joker, how they're polar opposites of each other, but they end up creating each other. I just found that kind of interesting. Um, connection the connection thing was weird. Okay, okay, we're good. But yeah, I'm fine with it in this version. I don't know how I feel about it if they tried that again with modern Batman movies. So like if in the Matt Reeves Batman universe, don't know what he's gonna do with that. But I felt for this version, I thought it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
But
I didn't kill. It didn't hurt the movie for me. It was just like, oh, how convenient. It was just too convenient. But as my 14-year-old me was like, yeah, okay. I mean, it didn't. I didn't even really think about it 2 years later. I mean, because obviously you
mhm,
grow up knowing that it's Joe Chill, and how they turn on Joe Chill because Batman's bringing the heat.
mhm,
And that's one good thing about this new movie is that Batman, what it appears to be, unlike the '89 version, which was really just cool, Batman is being presented as a symbol of terror. He's hunting people down. He's not just responding like any of the Batmans we've seen. He's a menace. He's hunting people down.
Hmm.
There's people running. The Penguin, when you see him stepping out of the fire, that's like a serial killer coming after you and you're trapped. So
yeah,
that's the
very
'89
true.
Batman was a dark Batman, and they were trying to um, exploit the mood of Batman at the time in the comics. But this Batman that you're about to see now probably is going to do it better than anyone they did besides Ben Affleck, and that's because they took Ben Affleck's Batman from the Dark Knight. That's the only
Mhm.
thing that makes Ben Affleck's Batman currently my favorite one is because it comes from a defining story that without which we would not have had a Batman '89. And in the form you'd have probably had some really, if it was even made, it would have been a really, really cheesy, edgy, not edgy movie. And I'm just glad that we had the Killing Joke and the Dark Knight Returns to prime the audience for that.
Mhm. Well, now I want to transition because we haven't talked about the man himself, Michael Keaton as
Hmm.
Batman. So as I said, I didn't grow up when the marketing started coming around, though I heard a lot of stories when they first announced that Michael Keaton was going to be Batman. A lot of people did not like that. A lot of people were like, "Are you kidding me? Beetlejuice is Batman. He's short. It don't make no sense." Blah, 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 blah. For me, since this is the first Batman movie I ever saw, and like before this, I grew up watching the animated series, so I don't have a and like the only other thing I've seen Michael Keaton in was Beetlejuice. I will say, um, it that's an interesting choice. Probably not my first choice of who I would pick as Batman, but that's what that's what I'm starting to appreciate now. Those weird obscure castings that end up surprising you.
Hmm.
I remember when Ben Affleck came out, a lot of people were like mixed on that as well, but a lot of people ended up really enjoying his Batman. And then we'll see how Robert Pattinson is because it's definitely not my first choice to be Batman, but he may end up surprising me as well. For me, Michael Keaton, I really like him as Batman. I think to this day he's still my second favorite. Um, I just yeah, you can nitpick this stuff like, oh, he's not tall enough, or he doesn't have that commanding presence like we're used to with a Ben Affleck or even a Christian Bale, stuff like that. But like, I don't know. I just personally like his take on Batman. It feels like his Batman's a little bit more say relatable. Do I want to say relatable? I don't know. Like he didn't feel as larger than life like the other Batman portrayals, I would say. And I do appreciate that they didn't go out and try to just get a 6 foot guy to be Batman. They got who was Tim Burton was like, who is the best actor to play my vision of Batman? And I feel Michael Keaton did that really well. And me being a short person, I'm 5'7", I appreciate short people need more roles, man. And I wasn't even thinking about his height throughout the entire film. They did a really good job, like not having us think about that, you know.
Elijah Wood
I think
plays as a Hobbit, and he's 5'11". He plays a 4'8" a Hobbit. So they really filmed for Sylvester Stallone is a midget. He's basically 5'7", maybe 5'8". In comparison, not a midget, but in comparison to Dolph Lundgren, who's 6'4". But yet, when you put them on there, it's filmed and done in such a way, and that's the way they were doing it back then. I mean, you meet these people in person, you would think like, oh my goodness, they're so tiny. But because of the way the cinematography does and the camera angles, it just really didn't matter. I mean, they found a way to make him very imposing for his stature.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like what I
indeed.
really liked about this, I'll let you go in a second, Ambassador. But I just
That's
want to say
fine.
real
No
quickly,
worries.
what I would say with Michael Keaton's Batman, like you already touched on it, Will. He still came off very imposing when he was Batman. What I really liked about his performance is that you really felt a difference between him as Bruce Wayne and him as Batman. Like you felt like there were two different performances going on, and that's something that I noticed with more of the with some of the future actors who play Batman, that like you can still kind of tell that Bruce Wayne is Batman because their performances feel kind of similar. That's how I felt with a little bit with Val Kilmer and definitely with George Clooney. Um, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, they improved a lot, but like with Michael Keaton, he got the like just like the presence of Batman, his demeanor, his voice. He didn't try too hard with his voice, which I also liked. He wasn't doing like he had a subdued like lower tempered voice, but you felt like he wasn't trying too hard. He didn't need to try very hard. Um, but yeah, I just really liked his performance as Batman and his suit. I like his suit a lot. Now I was used to the gray suit with the blue cow and stuff like that because that's what I grew up with watching with the animated series. But I felt like this costume fit really well for Tim Burton's world. I personally don't think in this universe, I don't know if the gray would have worked as well. Like the all black made him hot, like fit into the shadows a little bit more. But I do like that they still kept the yellow bat symbol. I did think it was weird that they gave the logo a little more points at the bottom, like because like you see at the bottom where with the regular logo, it's like they have 5 points at the bottom, but the the bat symbol on his suit had like more winged stuff. That was kind of weird. I don't know why they did that, but even other than that, I did really like his suit. I have one thing though, and this is just a personal thing for me. I don't like the long ears on Batman. I like them when it's like a medium sized or short. I just never liked the long ears personally. That's just a personal thing. That doesn't take away from the suit overall. That's just a personal thing for me. I don't like
You
long
can thank
ears.
Neil Adams for that. You can thank Neil Adams for he was the first artist that really started drawing him with the pronounced ears. And that's just became a trademark for a lot of different people, other than Frank Miller. When Frank Miller came along, he really drew him. He drew a more. There were not very many sharp edges on Batman, and also they went back to not having the yellow behind the bat symbol. That was something that was actually added. If you look at the original Detective Comics, he does not have yellow as part of his bat symbol. It's just the bat going across. So it was kind of they were kind of drifting back. But when that came out in '89, that was a very controversial decision. That was something that a lot of people kind of bitched and moaned about when they first saw the suit, because it was they had seen Batman gray and blue their entire lives. They weren't really ready for that until it actually happened, and everybody loved it.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, Ambassador, I interrupted you earlier.
Oh, it's okay. It's all right. Everybody gets turned. It's no worries. So, honestly, in terms of the design for the suit, I mean, up until then, we had just the basic cloth suit that Adam West wore. I have to say, with this particular suit, it was a very strong. It was a very strong step in the right direction to create a suit that itself was iconic, not just for the character but for the time, because we would see as time has passed and the evolution of Batman has gone on, there are times that the suits that we have seen after 89 have had influence from this suit. And you don't have a whole lot of high-tech gadgets on it and everything. You've got the very simple utility belt around his waist that he can attach whatever he needs to attach to it. And as far as the emblem goes, I never had a big problem with the redesign for the emblem, or at least having a different color scheme for the emblem, because you do want to break up all that black. Now, granted, he is a character that relies on stealth, but at the same time, one little patch of yellow is not going to make him all that more noticeable. But I think also the reason why they designed the emblem the way they did is they wanted it to stand out, because when he's going up against his opponents, and in particular that first scene on the rooftop when he grabs that thug by his coats, the collar of his coat, and says,
I want you to do me a favor. I want you to tell all your friends
tell
about
your
me.
friends about me.
Who are you?
Who are you? I'm Batman.
Yes.
But and it not only does he make that statement, but the design of the suit reinforces it. And you see the terrified reaction that thug has when the police capture him. He's like, I'm telling you, man, it was a giant bat. They're like, yeah, sure. Of course. One of my favorite characters from this movie, Robert Wall as Alexander Knox. For the
Knox.
Yeah, I loved it. Robert Wall in this movie, he was absolutely great. I wish he would have been a reoccurring character in the other films as well, even if even up until Batman Forever at least, because his character was he had some really good moments in this film, and I just want more Robert Wall. That's all I'll say. I wanted more Robert Wall as Knox in this series of films. I know there have been rumors that he might make an appearance or a cameo in The Flash. I am not really all that invested in The Flash at this point. No offense to my friends who are DC fans, but I just don't care.
Yeah,
they got to nail that trailer. That trailer comes out, it could change the whole trajectory of how we feel about The Flash. If they nail it with a trailer that gets you shaking like the Batman trailer did, then that could change everything about The Flash. But if they don't, then there's just going to continue to be doubt all the way up until the release date. So, but,
well, let me clarify it a little bit further down, William. As far as the character of the Flash goes, I'm just not particularly that invested. It's not so much the fact that he's getting his own movie or anything else, but in terms of characters that I am interested in from either Marvel, well, obviously from DC, he's way down on my interest list, and I'm not particularly have a particular vested interest in even seeing the movie.
Oh, you just don't care about the character overall.
No, I don't find the character that particularly interesting, regardless of the story that they build around him. I'm not all that invested or interested. So it's not anything to do with the cast. It has nothing to do with the studio. It has nothing to do with any of those things. I just don't care about the Flash. He runs really fast. What more need be said? Sorry, I don't care.
He ruins the timeline like 11,000 times.
So, but as far as go ahead, Dale.
Oh no! I was just gonna push just trying to get us moving forward. But yeah, I agree with you. I did like Knox in this movie. At first I didn't. I found him kind of obnoxious, but like recently watching him, I did find him really likable. He reminds me a lot of he reminds me kind of a Jimmy Olsen. Kind of, if Gotham had a Jimmy Olsen, I think he feels a lot like that. He's like that lovable dork. But yeah, I found it really pretty cool. if he does appear in the Flash, whatever, if it's like a cameo or something, I don't know. It just depends how it's utilized. I hope it just doesn't turn too much into a fan service
I wonder how
type
old
thing.
he is.
Yeah, how old is he? Because like
He's up
Remember,
there.
This
The
movie's
last thing
32
I
years
remember,
old.
the
is
last
he
thing I
around the
remember
age of
him
Keaton?
doing, maybe.
He could be. Because Robert.
Well, and here's the thing: the last thing I remember Robert Wool doing was an HBO series called Arliss, which I heard was actually really good.
Wow,
I
that
just
was
never
wild.
had.
I remember that.
Yeah,
show.
that was a while back. That was a while ago. It was a minute.
Mm.
So, but that's the last thing I honestly remember Robert Wool doing. I mean, I'm sure he's still working at whatever he's doing and everything, but again, if he shows up in the Flash, okay. If he doesn't, okay. Probably the first time I'll see the Flash is when it pops up on HBO Max. That's probably when I'll see it.
Robert Wall
I'm
is
not-
70.
Yep.
So he's around Keaton's age, so give or take. Let's see,
speaking of
Keaton's what, 69, 70?
Keaton's
Go ahead.
72.
70, 72?
72.
Oh,
Okay, so he's not far off. Okay.
right. But speaking of supporting characters, let us transition into Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale. Okay, so
Sorry.
no, I'm with you there. She was bland when I first watched this movie, and she's bland now. I just don't care about Vicky Vale. I don't even think I cared about Vicky Vale in the comics either. She's just such a nonchalant character. And this is the thing I noticed with Tim Burton movies, that you always have that just generic character that he's trying to push so hard, but like it just doesn't work. She's probably the most bland. Well, actually, no, because Batman and Robin, we didn't even know who that. I forget who that bitch was in the Batman and Robin. But other than her, probably the most bland love interest of the classic Batman movies. Probably of all the Batman movies. I don't know.
I'm going to respectfully disagree. I respectfully disagree. I actually like Kim Basinger quite a bit, not just depending on her looks, but also as her ability as an actress. I thought her role as Vicky Vale was actually very good in this film. So, now, yes, I will admit, and Daniel Martin, I will agree with you on this. The ear-piercing screams on a few occasions did get to me.
I'm like, jeez.
I will admit that did get on my nerves. But I did like the fact that she was not only just a photographer, but she was also an investigator, investigatorial journalist. So I did like that aspect of her character, and the fact that she finally does, after some digging with Knox, figure out who Bruce Wayne is or who Batman is. Well, vice versa. So
Alfred just lets her into the cave, like, hey.
Oh my god! What? Why? What do we?
You're fired.
Here's what's frustrating about. Sorry,
go deal. Well, the thing I was going to say, Alfred is like I have to say, one of my favorite scenes from this film is when they're sitting in the big fancy dining room, and they're sitting at opposite ends. They're sitting at opposite ends of that big long table, and she's like, "Do you like eating in here?" And he's like, "Actually, I don't think I've ever eaten in here before." He's like, "Do you want to get out of here?" And she's like, "Yes." They end up going to the kitchen, and I absolutely love that scene with Bruce and Alfred and Vicky, where Alfred's telling a very embarrassing story, like any good parent would, about his kid. Because let's be honest here, Alfred is Bruce's father after his parents die. And that little bit of that exchange there, she's like, you love him a lot. He's like, I couldn't put my shoes on without Alfred.
And I just say, I don't think there's ever been a bad Alfred in anything.
No,
like there's always been a good Alfred, and like, yeah, I love Alfred in this movie. I do. Other than the Batcave stuff, which still makes me angry, I still really like Michael Goff's Alfred. I really like him.
Fun fact: He has a small cameo role in another Burton directed film that I absolutely love as well, Sleepy Hollow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I loved him in that movie.
Hmm.
Of course, I love Sleepy Hollow. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Of course, it's Burton. Anyway,
Right.
go ahead, Dale.
But just to get back to Vicky Vale just real quick. What I mean, is she like bad? No, she's fine. She reminds me a lot of Jade Foster in the MCU.
She is very fine.
Sorry. No,
Hey, you're talking to an 80s kid. Kim Basinger in the 80s, she was a babe.
Yeah, 9
Oh
weeks.
no, I'm not denying that. She's a really good looking woman. She really is.
To use an 80s term, she's babelicious.
Mhm. But I just feel like there's not enough to her character where I feel like Batman would drop everything for her. She just seems like another woman, to be honest. And for her to be such a really skilled, like, reporter or whatever, I know it takes her a while to realize that he's Batman. So it's just I don't know. She just felt very generic. It's just not bad. It's just like, really, Batman's going to be like Batman's going to lose his shit over this girl? What makes her so special? Well, I don't know.
Well, maybe she wowed him in bed. Because let's put it this way, I know a lot of people got their knickers in a twist because of that image of Batman going down on Catwoman, but Batman gets down in this movie with Vicky Vale. Granted, we don't see anything on screen. Granted, she doesn't. We don't see anything on screen, but still, it's implied. I mean, they're laying there in bed. What the hell do you think they were doing? Reading comic books? No.
They'll always imply it, but they'll just never explicitly show it in a Batman movie, and that's where the whole the Batman going down on Catwoman thing. Even though people rose up about that, if you're in control of that IP and the way that IP is perceived, you absolutely can never have that on anything like that. That's just too raunchy for what the Batman has been portrayed for the past 80 years. So they were. Yeah. I don't agree with Warner Brothers on a lot. I agreed with them on that.
So,
anyway,
go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, moving on. Okay, so
weight.
You weigh a little bit more than 108. Oh, really? Okay, so we may agree to disagree on Vicky Vale, but I dare you guys to defend one good thing about this Commissioner Gordon. Please tell me something good about this Commissioner Gordon. Please.
I think he's actually a very good commissioner. I think, unfortunately, he got pushed to the side as the movies went on, particularly in Batman Forever. His part was minimalized in, I think, really starring in Batman Forever. Now, granted, I love Batman Forever. Relation Schumacher cut. But I think, honestly, this, I think, is one of the better Commissioner Gordons that we've gotten, at least at the outset. Now, I will say my all-time favorite, until I see the Batman come next month, will always be Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman was a really good Commissioner Gordon, not to mention the voice actor who did Commissioner Gordon for the animated series. But I think I think he was okay. Was he a standout in the film? No, but he was okay. I don't think he was awful.
Yeah. It was 80s style. The difference between this Batman movie and any other Batman movie, all the other Batman are subdued, and they focus primarily on the villain and the environment. This was the only Batman movie, in my opinion, that focused on Michael Keaton's character, and everything else was subdued. There really wasn't much that Pat Hingle or any of these other characters, Vicky Vale, could do, because that's not what the movie was designed to do. The movie was designed to focus solely on him for the most part, and Jack Nicholson's character, secondary. But it was primarily it was a Michael Keaton Batman film. Now, if you look at if you compare 89 to everything else, the environment and the supporting cast are given much more light and support. The Dark Knight is Heath Ledger's movie. Kristen Bell is just there. But The Dark Knight is, in any of the movies, for the most part, most of them, you take out the villain, you pretty much taken out the substance of the movie. Batman 89 is not the case. Michael Keaton's Batman is the substance of that movie. So a lot of these guys who actually are better actors than they showed at that time, weren't that this wasn't being asked of them to do anything more than they did.
Okay, it's interesting that you brought that up because I did want to ask this question because a lot of people felt like Batman didn't get enough development in this movie. It felt like the other characters are more front and center than him. Do you guys feel that way? Because like they to come to think of it, they don't go too much into his origin. We do have the scene of his parents dying, of course, but as far as like seeing how he becomes Batman or how much screen time he's gotten, I do notice like it feels like there's more emphasis on the Joker and the supporting characters than Batman because he feels like an entity in the movie. Like everyone's reacting to the Batman instead of having the movie focus on Batman's point of view. Do you guys feel that way? And do you guys think that
No,
was a good approach for this movie?
no, I actually think it was the opposite. I thought he was completely the focal point of the movie. He has all the meaningful scenes. The only other person that has meaningful scenes is in the movie is the Joker, and that's it. But he has more. He is the movie for the most part. He is everything goes back to him and doesn't really. I actually think they develop him a lot more in the movie than they do all these other characters. Some of these characters basically have disjointed appearances in the movie. They are there, but they're there to fit his narrative. Whereas all other movies, Batman is there as the foil to the much more interesting villains and supporting cast. So I
How
would
you
I
feeling,
would I would go the other way on that one.
Matt? Okay. What about you, Ambassador?
I'm mostly inclined to agree with William. I think this very much is Batman's movie. I will say I think for me, at least from my perspective, it's a 50-50 split between whose movie is this. It's obviously it is Batman's movie, but it's also Jack Napier or the Joker's movie as well. Because you have two individuals who have gone down very different paths in life. Obviously, they come from different backgrounds, they have different perspectives on things. And obviously, Jack Napier has been a career criminal all his life. He obviously he's very intelligent. As when Bruce does the whole breakdown of his dossier and his criminal record, he's exceptionally smart, very capable. He has high aptitude with science and chemistry and so on. And if you look at the Batman character, while we don't see him go through the training like we do in Batman Begins, which I think was honestly a strength for Batman Begins, was actually seeing Bruce go through all that rigorous training. I think that
Yeah.
was actually a strength of Batman Begins. We don't see that here, but we see the outcome of all the training and the advantage that Bruce Wayne had being the child of coming from an industrialist family. And you see how the traumas in their life changed them. Bruce took the trauma from his life and turned himself into a symbol of justice and um, fairness. I'll just stick to a symbol of justice. And with Jack Napier, he gets dunked into a vat of chemicals. His skin gets bleached white. He goes through all this, and it makes him even more deranged. And he becomes a threat to Gotham. And Batman, being who Batman is, he's going to answer that threat. And I will say this: yes, Batman does kill. When he sends the Batmobile in, when Batman sends the Batmobile in and drops those bombs, I pretty much guarantee you, not all those crooks and all those people that were working for Napier were able to get out of the Axis chemical plant. People died.
Oh yeah, he blew up an entire factory with people in it.
when they're in the botched heist by Napier and his bunch, Batman does kill.
Mm-hmm.
So, but getting back to the main point, I think as Daniel Martin said in the chat, I think a lot of the film is focused on Bruce and Batman, but it's also focused on Jack. And I think that's how you get such a That's why we regard this movie so highly as we do, is because it's both their stories.
Yeah, Jack got top billing in this movie.
Yes, he did,
Yeah, because at the
and
time
justifiably so.
he was a much larger star than Michael Keaton was. I mean,
Yes.
in comparison, Jack Jack Nicholson and Michael Keaton would be the equivalent of a kindergartner to a at that time 2-time Academy Award winner. So and he was he was the top billing. He was what drove that movie's box office, and that was just that was known and that was expected at the time. I mean that was one character when they cast nobody had a complaint against when they cast Jack Nicholson. Even though I don't, and as Jokers go, he's really just playing Jack Nicholson with white makeup. He really, in my opinion, doesn't alter a lot of his, and which is fine. But he's really just playing Jack Nicholson. I'm seeing the same guy in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, in a couple of maybe a few variations. But that's what he did. That's what you knew you were getting, and he really didn't disappoint.
No. Well, and I think that's the good thing about an actor like Jack Nicholson. You bring him in to essentially be himself, but his personality and his acting ability is very marketable. It's very sellable. It's very appealing. I mean, he does crazy or perceived crazy very, very well.
Yeah,
I mean, you look as William mentioned with One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, a movie that they just recently added to HBO Max, Chinatown. Obviously, The Shining. I mean, this guy's resume is long, and it is, I think, very well respected. He has not really done a bad movie. I will even say this: I will go out on this ledge or this limb, and I will stay there. I loved him in Anger Management with Adam Sandler. I did.
I did
loved him in
too.
that movie.
I did
Too.
too.
I loved him in that movie.
Mm-hmm. To bring up a couple more world building with the characters. I did like Ed Cart in this movie. I like his like witty dark voice, like I answer to
Bob the Goon, is that what his character's name?
I forget exactly. I think he's supposed to be a spin on Henry Gulak, who ends up being in the animated series. So
Harvey Bullock.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Harvey Bullock. But I liked him, and then also we gotta talk about Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ooh, this is another one of those obscure, one of these castings where it's like you never thought, Billy D. Williams would be cast as this character, but like
back in the era where they just didn't do that. They just did not do that.
Yeah.
They didn't do race switching when it came to characters. When they just didn't do it. Nowadays, it's understood that if the ethnicity of the character is not relevant to the story of that character, then you can pretty much make him whoever you want to. Commissioner Gordon being black or white, his whiteness wasn't a singular part of his story that would alter the story. So in which case you just went out and get the best actor you could possibly get. And Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian, you're talking 1989, is famous amongst that. So, and he was not going to become Two-Face and in the movie. And even if he had, the Two-Face being black or white was never relevant to his story at any point. So they were able to do that. But back in 89, that was unheard of, because if it was a white character, you played him with a white actor. So that was one of the most interesting things of that time. I remember as well, growing up with it.
This is what I also liked about the world building in this movie. It's like they're setting up pieces, but they're not using them instantly. Like they're establishing, yes, this character exists in this world, and if we want to use him in the future, we can. But he's just a character to help enhance the story. Similar with the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, where they had Dr. Connors there in like 2 of the movies, but they didn't instantly be like, oh, we're going to set him up to be Lizard, but he's just a character in that world. So that's what I really liked about it.
The sad fact is they didn't use him again when they brought back Two-Face. Granted, they got an excellent actor to play that Two-Face, but they weren't consistent with Billy D. Williams.
I really wanted to see his Two-Face, man. Like, I think that would have been really, really interesting. And like, honestly, they don't even bring him back in Batman Returns in general. Like, he's just gone. Like, why?
Yeah.
Use his character, give it not Billy D. Williams.
And William, you were the first person that I've heard say that they actually liked Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. I loved him as Two-Face. Of course, I love Tommy Lee Jones as an actor. He's done a lot of movies that I absolutely positively thoroughly enjoy. So it's nice to meet another
I
fellow.
don't hate the.
Go ahead, Dale. It's okay.
I was just gonna say. I don't hate the casting of Tommy Lee Jones. I thought, okay, he could be a really good Two-Face if it's not Billy D. I just didn't like how he was written and how he was told to perform that character. But we'll get into that when we get to Batman Forever. But anyway, but yeah, I did have a problem with Tommy Jones. I just wish that I don't know why they just didn't bring him back. Was there contractual issues? I don't know.
Well, no, there was considered to be an upgrade in star issue. You got to realize that he had just won the Academy Award for the Harrison Ford movie that he had just done, and he was a high profile actor. And that at that time in the mid '90s, Batman was a not a launching pad, but a landing pad for high profile actors. That's why you got to see people like George Clooney at the height of ER. That's why you got to see Val Kilmer when Val Kilmer had done Heat, and done Top Gun. And so it became all the stars of that moment, or all the major stars. It became the rallying point for all those. Tommy Lee Jones had just won for The Fugitive. He had just won an Academy Award. He had been in a string of movies up to that point, so they went with the hot hand. Billy D. Williams really hasn't acted much since Batman '89. If you look at his career, he hasn't really done a lot.
Yeah. Which is kind of unfortunate because he is a good actor.
Oh yeah,
he is. We'll talk about real quick because we haven't really talked that much about the Batmobile, man. That is one slick looking vehicle right there. Iconic. And like we said, like with the modern Batman movies today, they're worried so much of making it look modern or making it look like, have the sensibilities of today's, stuff like that. But like this is, as I said, straight up comic booky. It has wings on the back, bruh.
1940s. That front era. If you look at the original Batmobile with the big bat head in the front of it, that was basically an old 1940s car with the battering ram in front of it so you could run through, bust into crime houses and stuff like that. That Batmobile is so much influenced by the 1940s Batman stuff that it's unreal, except for obviously the jet engine, but everything else was, even a turn signal he didn't use or didn't need, but kept on all the time. But it was, that was iconic. And it was so good that even though they made changes to it throughout the next three movies, it kept the same basic shape. It kept the same basic likeness. They changed the engine in the front, which was, completely ridiculous because, but it was cool looking. But if you look at it from Batman and Robin, from all the way from '89 to Batman and Robin, which is a 6-7 year span, that Batmobile pretty much maintains a very familiar shape.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then let's also talk about this dang Batwing, bruh. It's literally shaped like the Bat logo, bruh. This is so cool, man. It's so
biggest waste of screen time, other than when it flew up against the moon and you got the Batman symbol. Oh yeah, the crowd popped for that, even though there was no reason for that movie. It gets shot down by a revolver.
Well, a high-powered revolver, because you have to remember, Jack knows how to make high-powered explosives, because he has the chemistry background and so on. Don't shrug your shoulders at me, William. What are you talking about here?
What was in the bullet? Napalm?
Yeah, it was a super.
How is he shooting? He's shooting at a moving target coming at him that high in the air. Because remember, Batman was still high enough in the air, even if that was a powerful bullet. The velocity, he was like, come on. I'm like, you paid all that money for a thing that got taken out with a bullet? God.
And what was even more stupid, before that, you saw Batman like targeting the Joker. It had like targets on the scanner thing right when he was about to shoot him, and he misses. He fucking misses.
Yes, I will. That part I will admit. How the hell do you miss? I will admit. How the hell did you miss him? But
Oh my
it also
God.
gives us a great line. Come to me, you gruesome son of a bitch. Come on.
Oh
He
yeah,
would have had
before
that barrel wasn't long enough to take out no jet like that, though. I mean,
It's called suspension of disbelief, William.
yeah, I guess.
I
And
mean,
at the
yes,
time,
whimsical
it
comic
didn't
book
bother me.
movie.
But I'm like, wow, dude, you want me to go buy this toy that just got taken out? Like, it has like literally.
I would love to have that toy.
I had it 4 minutes on the air. 4 minutes on the air, less than 3 minutes, I guess, and it's gone already. It's like, come on. But it was part of the story, and the balloons and everything else, and Anton First's set design. That was what really made that thing pop out.
Well,
you did bring up one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna bring up the one thing you did bring up, Ambassador, about the come on, you son of a bitch, come get me. Before
gruesome,
the Dark Knight, right?
Gruesome
Before the
son
Dark
of a
Knight
bitch.
was like, come on,
Get it
hit
right.
me. Yeah, gruesome son of a bitch.
Come to me, you. Come on, come to me, you gruesome son of a bitch.
This is how influential, because in the Dark Knight had a very similar thing where the Joker was out in the street and Batman was about to run. Was like, come on, you want to hit me? Come on, hit me. It's like felt a lot like that scene right there.
You didn't open fire on him. If you open fire on him with those cannons on that bike, then we're talking about a different ending. But Batman,
how did he fit that long gun in his pants?
Yeah,
like, he just pulls.
Well, it's a long pair of pants.
But he got a bend, right? And like the gun's already elongated. Like, I don't know. I'm questioning too much.
Well, also you have to remember it is a collapsible barrel, because he does collapse the barrel down later.
He just. I was like, that was cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I just got to retell myself. It was the 80s, so there you go.
Yes, it was, and the 80s was awesome. That's why we love it.
Absolutely. Okay, one other thing I want to talk about that was another controversial thing about this movie, that Batman ends up killing the Joker after the fight in the church. How did you guys feel about that?
After seeing him basically lead to the Joker's death in The Dark Knight, I was okay. After seeing him almost choke the Joker to death and have to fight himself from killing him after the Killing Joke, it was in line with everything I had written, or not written, or read in Batman. The people, like I always say, the people who grew up with the animated show that I found that I interact with every day have more of an issue with Batman killing and being brutal than the people who grew up in my era. Because with my era, Batman was beating the hell out of you. He was giving you a concussion. He was crushing your skull. He was throwing sharp objects at you that were meant to kill you. Those bat blades, those aren't, if he hits you with one of those, you're gone. When he's bashing your head in, who knows if you're going to ever wake up again? Like the new movie, that guy's not getting up. That guy might not ever be the same again. The one that beats up says, "I'm vengeance." That guy's going to have some issues. So for me, Batman being violent and having the potential to kill was always a part of the reality for the character for me. I think that what happens is we drift away from this. The Adam West goofiness drifts us away from what Bob Kane actually created the character to do. He carried a gun in his initial appearances. So he was all about violence. But we watered him down, and we forget about that. We watered him down and made him kid-friendly.
Sure did. Yeah, how did you feel about it, Ambassador?
Oh, him killing the Joker?
Yeah.
I didn't blink an eye. Yeah, kill him. He took away okay, let's do a bit of a deep dive here on Bruce's motivation. Jake Napier took away his security. He took away his world from him the day that he murdered his parents in cold blood. All these years he has carried that around with him. And now he finally discovers who killed his parents, and he has a bullseye on the guy's back. Literally. So when he decides not to save him and let him fall to his death from the belfry of Gotham City Cathedral, yes, I'm completely and perfectly fine with Bruce letting him die. No hesitation, nothing. That's my answer.
Nobody in Gotham will bat an eye. It's like, you do something that we'd rather have you take him off the street than have him constantly endanger our cops. That's why Commissioner Gordon it was an unspoken rule that he did what he needed to do. If somebody ends up dead or hurt, and I called you in, I put that symbol in the sky for a reason. If I put that symbol in the sky, that means we are dealing with a mortal and lethal threat. that's going to harm the public and put my cops at risk. So I already know that the situation is a life or death situation, and I'd rather it be you taking out that guy than that guy taking out our cops.
Exactly. Because here's the thing. Batman operates outside of the law, but he still functions within the law to a certain degree.
Citizen's arrest. That's what he. That
Yes.
is the actual term that he operates under. He's deputized to a point. So, welcome.
Hey, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? Would you? I love that so much. It's so good.
Well, again, it's Jack Nicholson doing what Jack Nicholson does best. Being crazy.
Exactly. For me, first of all, I've established this before. I never cared about Batman's no killing rule. I don't want to get into a full discussion about his killing rule. I think we could save that for a future Bat stream. But
Sure.
watching this, I didn't bat an eye either, to be honest. And this is me coming off of the animated series where where Joker's a reoccurring villain. I was okay with it. I was fine. And at that time, I wasn't like exposed to the whole Batman doesn't kill debates going on, so I was fine with it. I think I was okay with Batman killing up until like when people started to make a problem about it with the Dark Knight films. You know, like in Batman Returns, he killed people. I didn't bat an eye. Batman Forever, he killed people. I didn't bat an eye. I was okay with it. So I was like,
that's where the generations collided, though, because my generation collided with the softy cartoon version, and now we're all both going to the movie theaters with each other, and you know they're starting. If you're going to do a true Batman movie, some people are going to die. It's just the way it is, and now you're transitioning to cartoon people. Like I said, there couldn't be the kind of true Batman violence. That's why I don't like the animated series personally. I have very little use for the animated series. I think it's been a detriment to Batman because it brought people into Batman with a false premise. That is not Batman on those cartoons. All right. So, and now it pigeon-toes the creators because they have a large segment of their audience that is softy and cuddly with cartoons, and they can't make the Batman the way he needs to be. That's why I think that this new Batman is going to have, if there's any problem that the new Batman will have, it will be the tone that is exposing to that softy generation of cartoon watchers. That tone is dude, you can just see from the trailers alone that Batman that he's playing on that screen is not the cuddly cartoon version that you grew up with. You might have an issue. Just warning you, you know.
Mm-hmm. I feel like we're gonna have a debate when I talk about Mask of the Phantasm, but anyway, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I get it. One other thing I wanted to talk about is the dang soundtrack from Prince, man.
I hoped you were going to get to that.
Yes, of course I'm going to get to it.
Thank you. Thank you.
As I said earlier in the stream, like my dad had the CD, and I listened to this thing all the time.
CD,
a lot
of tape.
Yes, CD, man.
You were a high roller back in the 90s, man.
Hey, man, like my parents were showing me some classics. But yeah, man, I know a lot of people will complain about the music's dated now. Oh, it's cheesy.
Oh, no,
and
it isn't.
You
Hell,
shut
no, it isn't.
your mouth. Shut your dang mouth. The music was
good
back then. It's good now.
The sound score is, but not the musical soundtrack. Prince doesn't make music that you can define a particular area. Purple Rain is Purple Rain, no matter when you listen to Purple Rain. All right, exactly. It is Stranger Cherry Moon. All these movies they don't have an era that they fit in. They fit everywhere. Now, Danny Elfman's score is dated because you go from Danny Elfman. Now you look at there's so many people that Hans Zimmer, all these other guys that are doing Junkie XL, all these other guys that are doing these scores, and they're much more overpowering, and they fit today. His in 1989, that score, they didn't even use that much of his score throughout the Batman movies that they were making then. That was it. 89 has the most of it, and then they went to other realms. But Prince, Prince is Prince. Prince is Prince.
Prince will always be awesome.
Man. Like the they didn't play all of his songs in the movie, but like the songs they did choose, I felt like they elevated the scene. Specifically, the two scenes I'm talking about. The first one, when Joker and his goons ransack the museum and start
Museum,
spraying all the
That's
paintings
Party Man.
with
Isn't
Party
that when they're
Man.
playing Party Man? Yeah,
Party
that was
Man.
great.
Yes.
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds.
Broaden our minds.
Clarence? Oh my God, I love that scene
And the
so
fact
much.
that the guy is carrying a boom box.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love that.
That's the '80s though. That
I
fit.
know.
Remember the video that they did for Batman? That when he's playing, he's the Joker on the one side in the video for it.
Oh, the bat dance or something.
Yeah, Batman. He was using it was a play
Yeah.
on the Adam West soundtrack, but it's Prince. And now I remember that,
Oh, okay.
that got so much playtime.
Yeah, I love
we
I'll
that
have to
dance.
look that up because honestly, I don't remember that one. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, YouTube, Batman, Prince, Batman, Prince. That's all you got to do. It should be the first thing that comes up.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And then the other scene when they have the parade in Gotham and they have Trust playing while he's throwing the money.
Yes.
Joker's throwing the money to people. I'm like, oh my God, I love the soundtrack so much.
Yeah, I love the
So
balloons in that scene. The balloons.
Oh yeah.
Anton first, as far as developing things. Rest in peace, Anton first.
Yes.
He was heavily influenced by Sid Mead. I mean, heavily. That entire movie. If you look at Batman '89, and that's why I always tell people to make the connection. Why people who've never seen Blade Runner, you're watching Blade Runner in so many different places that you don't even know. Because the people who were doing things later on in that decade were influenced by Sid Mead, were influenced by LA 2019 in the environment. The entire movie, the majority of the movie taking place at nighttime under those conditions. That was they even say it in the making of, and that was a heavy influence on there. So that's why I always tell people, if you've never seen Blade Runner but you've seen Batman 1989, go watch Blade Runner and you'll see where the connections are.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna be doing a review. I'm gonna be doing a review for Blade Runner here in a couple of weeks because I love that movie.
Yeah, even though 2049 is a superior movie.
Oh yes,
I love them both. But you know that's a whole stream. That's like, oh goodness, I could go literally a marathon about
2049. Denis Villeneuve, yeah, he knocked it out of the park with that movie, and of course, Blade Runner, the first one, Ridley Scott.
Yeah, there's so many movies. I only bring up Blade Runner because, like I said, if you've ever seen both movies side by side, you're looking at his student Sid Mead, basically a student of Sid Mead, making an environment that if Blade Runner hadn't been made, I don't know what kind of goofy environment would have been. It would have been pastels and colors. It would look more like Miami Vice with colors and stuff, all that. And I think that because
like the Schumacher movies.
I'll come up with that in a second. But the environment that they created for Batman dictated a lot of how Michael Keaton looked in that movie. He had to fit into that environment, and then the environment came first. Now, when you talk about Batman Forever, it's a transition into what. Once you started transitioning into it not all being about Michael Keaton, that was Batman Forever was the logical transition in the way things were supposed to be looked. It was still set in a dark realm, but there's color amidst that darkness. And I thought out of the first three movies, Batman Forever is my favorite of the three.
Oh,
it's a tie. William, this is where you and I are going to agree because honestly, for me, it's a tie between Forever and '89 because, well, I do enjoy Batman Returns. The Joker, not the Penguin, takes me out of it. It's not that I
love Danny DeVito, but that just
God.
I love Danny DeVito. Don't misunderstand me. It's just how
it's
like portrayed. It's the portrayal of the Penguin that I didn't care for. Now,
that's when I really started not to like Tim Burton. That's where I started to turn the corner with. I don't like Tim Burton's movies for the most part. And Batman,
exactly.
Yeah,
like we said with Tommy Lee Jones, the casting is not bad. It's just how he's directed. That's the problem. Same thing with Danny DeVito. Perfect casting at the time. Like can't think of anyone
Michelle
else.
Pfeiffer?
Penguin. Yeah, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord.
Well, not only this, I think one of the unsung heroes of that movie, Christopher Walken. I love Christopher Walken in Batman.
Oh my god!
What?
No! I agree with you.
We're talking about Christopher Walken, the Prophecy, one of the most underrated actors to begin with, and he's not used very well. You know what? He's not used very well in most of his movies. You know that? In A View to the Kill, he's not used very good in that, and that's a James Bond.
No, he's not.
In a James Bond movie, and I don't think he's used very well. The movie he won an Academy Award. I think he won for for the Deer Hunter, and
Mhm.
he's used well there. But the best movie, the best Christopher Walken movie that I've ever seen him or used the best in is The Prophecy. If you want to
Yes.
see Christopher Walken at his
Oh,
top notch best, The Prophecy is it. And they
Oh,
didn't use him that
William.
way in Batman Returns. Boom.
Yes, because the prophecy. Granted, it
Oh,
had way too many sequels, but the first one, Christopher Walken as the angel. I think it's
yeah.
Mike Gabriel.
Yeah, he's like,
Oh
he's
my
talking ape.
freaking!
Yeah, he doesn't
Oh
talk
my!
to us anymore. He talks to you. He's talking apes. The way he's his contempt, and he still has a Brooklyn accent, and he's basically this evil angel. And I'm like, wow, this guy. Oh man, I never look at angels the same way. He made you fear angels more than the demons. Viggo Mortensen. Viggo Mortensen's in
Viggo
that movie
Mortensen is
as
Lucifer.
Satan, and
Yes,
you feared Walken's character far more than you ever would Viggo Mortensen. He eats people's hearts out. So yeah, that's the Batman
I
Returns Walken that I didn't get, unfortunately, to bring it back
you
to
know
Batman.
yeah.
yeah, we don't want to get too much into a Batman Returns review. We'll talk about that in a couple of days. But I
Yes.
definitely agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. Um, so gonna get close to ending this. I think we covered almost everything. Anything you guys want to bring up before we start and closing it out?
Nah, it is Batman. It was a breakthrough motion picture movie for Batman. It hadn't been a Batman movie in decades, and if you count Batman '66, I guess there is. If you don't count that, even longer than that. I think its influence was great. I think it has an influence an outsized influence in today's Batman films that it should not have. Even if I loved it as a 14-year-old in June of 1989, the world has changed and the circle is driven back to what what I think Bob Kane originally intended him to be, and what Frank Miller restored him to. I think with this next coming movie, and it's ironic that they're bringing him back. They're bringing back a Michael Keaton Batman in a world that does not exist. I don't know how that's going to work. Um, I lived through the 80s and I left everything in the 80s there for the most part. I mean, the 80s were great while you were there, but I think Batman '89 has this Paul Bunyan folklore place in people's lives, and at the time, it was a great movie. But in the interim, bigger, better movies have been made. Better Batman have come onto the screen. So that's my only negative thing about it is, in retrospect, it's become a mythical, jockalopes, whereas at the time it just wasn't. And now '89 is affecting 2022, and I don't know if that's a good thing.
Uh, Closing thoughts for you, Ambassador?
Um, I do understand where William is coming from. I cannot say with all sincerity that I disagree. But I do believe that Batman '89 it still holds a place in cinematic history. It does definitely hold a place in the cinematic history for comic book movies, especially. As William stated, I do worry about its influence to a degree, but at the same time, if we had never gotten Batman '89, we may potentially have never gotten any of the other Batman movies or any other comic book movies in general that we have gotten in the years after it. It definitely, like I said before, it set a benchmark not just for the character of Batman himself, but also for how good a comic book movie can be. Because let's be honest here, a lot of people regarded comic book movies as simply just kid stuff that kids and teenagers read, and it's something it was perceived as something very juvenile. But with a movie like Batman '89, it showed that it had a weight and a seriousness and a something that speaks inherently to all of us. It asks the question, and this is something I've said before. It asks the questions: what if a tragedy like what Bruce Wayne went through happened to one of us? How would it affect us? How would it affect our lives? How would it affect the trajectory of our lives? And the character of Batman himself, as everybody has said, and this is also a stance I agree with, the character of Batman is something that is attainable, whereas you can't get a ring from an alien and have the power to create anything from your mind. It simply does not exist. You can't be an orphan from another planet gifted with abilities because of your biology, like Superman. But with Batman, you can go through all that rigorous training regardless of your financial means. You can train your mind, you can train your body to become something that is a approximation to the character of Batman / Bruce Wayne. And that's why Batman 89, to me, whether you look at it from the lens of the 80s or you look at it now, it is a great film.
Tell me, my friends, you ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I just love that slide. I don't know why I haven't said it yet in this review. I asked that of all my prey. I just like the sound of it. Pow! He shoots him point blank. Oh, we also got to talk about this I just want to bring up real quick the random thing that Michael Keaton does in this movie. It's random. It comes out of nowhere, but I love it. Like, bruh, it's nuts. It's crazy. He was hardening his inner Beetlejuice in that scene. Makes no sense in the context of the movie, but I love it. It was great.
It's become a drop now. It's become a drop on pretty much every show we're on.
Oh, yeah. Know? Yep, you see it, plenty of it on the Poindexter Lounge. But but anyway, closing thoughts. Overall, this is such a fun movie. I could put this on anytime and just have a blast with it. This is the movie that really, really got me into Bat Fever. You know, other than the animated series, you know, this is what really got me into loving Batman. This movie. I think Michael Keaton as Batman is great. He's very underrated. I think he's still my second favorite Batman. Love Jack Nicholson as the Joker. I think he's fantastic. I love that this movie wasn't afraid to be over the top and whimsical and comic booky, where we have a whole bunch of comic movies today that's trying to be very grounded and realistic. This one wasn't afraid to be like the comics, which is what I appreciated. But it wasn't too much, and you felt like Tim Burton, for the most part, understood the character. To me, this is probably one of Tim Burton's best films. Is this movie right here?
It went downhill from there, from my opinion.
Sure did. It sure did. What a shame. But yeah, I love the suit. I love the gadgets. I love the car. The supporting characters were good, with the exception of like a couple who I didn't really care for, like Vicky Vale, and I wish Commissioner Gordon just had more to do. Like, you know, it just felt like he had the least amount to do out of all the Gordons we've seen in live action. So that's just the one thing. But other than that, I thought all the supporting characters were good. I definitely had to take my nostalgia glasses out of it because, like, I do notice there are some things that are convenient with the plot, and you know, just a bunch of random stuff. There's a couple of random stuff that happens in the movie, which I'm like, huh, but it's not enough for me to say that, you know, it doesn't ruin my enjoyment of the movie. Still,
it did for me.
Of course,
when I'm watching this movie. This movie was the world to me. Now, as an analytical and more different types of Batman, I look at it. My criticisms are more in retrospect than they are. Like when I was sitting in the theater in this movie with my little Batman shirt and all the, I had no problems with this movie as a 14-year-old kid. You know, my adult self has some issues with it, but not it. Only because I'm looking at it now from this point of view. But at that point of view, it literally was, the biggest blockbuster that we had since Superman 2, because the other Superman didn't do all that well. But Superman 2 was the zenith of that era for comic book movies until just at the end of the decade, you get Batman. And that kind of changed everything. It changed a lot for the comic book industry, too, because a lot more people started collecting Batman. Everybody knew who Batman was on the periphery, but they didn't know the true Batman. A lot of people were shocked. When they would read what Batman was all about, and they would pick up The Dark Knight, and they would pick up Year Two, and they would pick up some of these more violent, brutal stories that were being portrayed in the 80s. And then, there's one cover of Batman where there's a killer had dressed up his victims as Batman, and Batman's at the morgue with them all pulled out. That was a Batman, and that was 1989. That was when John Byrne was doing it. and that is the Batman that people saw this movie. If they went out and bought an issue that very next month, that was the Batman they were being introduced to. So a lot of people got educated, and then the education, regressed when the animated series came out. What, a couple of years later, because then everything got goofy. So.
Ooh, we really gonna fight with Mask of the Phantasm. But anyway, but I do.
Master of the Phantasm, it is what it is, but it's by comparison to what Batman actually is, and what you just take year two, take Tom McFarlane's year two Batman and compare it to Mask of the Phantasm. It would be like you comparing Pee Wee's Playhouse to Silence of the Lambs. That's what it is. You may think Mask of the Phantasm is this brutal, thing. It's Pee Wee's Playhouse with him on his bike riding through the house compared to Hannibal Lecter. That's the comparison.
Yeah, it's the weird thing because I don't disagree with you. And like, there's a lot that I agree with you on. It's like I feel like today people are just so stuck in the nostalgia of this movie, and even with the Dark Knight films, which we'll get to later on in the month. But like, they're just so stuck in this because it was such a pop culture icon when it came out, and not a lot of people were like used to seeing a different are like ready to see different versions of Batman after this because like they feel like this is a definitive version because this is the first thing that came out, that's like really as popular as it was and whatever. So that's the one thing I'm worried about with movies today when they're just trying so hard to be so nostalgic. It's how I feel about the Superman because everyone just can't leave Christopher Reeve alone for some reason. That's a very similar thing with that. So I just hope movies could just ease up on the nostalgia and stuff like that. But I understand why people are crazy about this movie because I'm still technically crazy about it in my heart. But overall, I give the final grade to Batman '89. I'll give it pretty good. I don't think it's greatness. There are moments in here that are great, but overall as a film, I would give it a pretty good. I don't know if I can go higher than that, but still, really enjoyable movie. Sorry, were you gonna say something, Ambassador?
No.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, cool. Well, that is our thoughts on Batman '89. What did you guys think about it? Comment down below if you guys loved it, if you guys hate it, you guys think it's okay. Comment who's your favorite Batman. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to my live stream, and I want to thank Ambassador and William for tuning in. Had a really good discussion with you guys. If you want to tell the good people where they can find you on the social medias and things, we can start with you, Ambassador.
You can find me both on Twitter and on Instagram. My Twitter handles at Ambassador Kosh 7, and on the Instagram, the Instagram, excuse me, is the Ambassador Kosh. So, and of course, you can find me on my channel here, the Ambassadorial Wing. So,
all right, William.
If you just Google the Sci-Fi Center, you're bound to find me. In a couple of weeks, I'll have several things on Poindexter's Lounge Atmosphere, so you'll be able to find me there as well. So, yeah, you'll probably get too much of me here in the next 3 weeks.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of plan in the Poindexter Pantheon. No, Enosh has not asked me to be part of the Pantheon yet. It's still in the works, so don't worry. But so yeah, the next Batman film we will be talking about in Bat Month is Batman Returns. So tune in for that when it comes out. If you guys enjoyed this, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell if you want to be notified of future videos I'll be doing. But that's all I have for you Batman fans. I'll see you guys in the next one. Talk to you guys later. And remember, if you gotta go with a smile.